So you've seen the pictures of the Loch Ness monster, Nessie. Well, I have an idea that I would like to try. Just get that out of the way. I'm going to use these tiles. And just to give you an idea what it is. Nessie ornaments quite often have a hump. Maybe one piece of the tail, then a hump, and then the head. And I thought it might be a good idea, because I have a glass shelf, to do a tail piece that goes under the shelf, back up over the shelf, under the shelf and up with the head. Thought that might be fun to try, using some magnets. If I make the body the same diameter as a magnet, then I can potentially make the body above the glass and below the glass magnetized together. Let's see what we can achieve. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Flying away. Will that fit to it? That's about the right diameter. And I will work through a tile. Not hugely powerful magnets, maybe they won't work. That's one. Move that. Place that on there. That one's rolled a little too thin, so we make it a bit shorter. Don't mind if it's a little bit bigger than the other one, because then you can decide what order you want to put them in. If you want the big one at the back, big one at the front. And then bend, and you've got to make sure that these are flat, level with the surface. So it's going to look pretty cool. Plastic polymer clay does actually bend a little, as it cooks. I'm just hoping that if I press it down fairly firmly, don't ruffle the edges too much, but if I push it down with a fair amount of conviction, it hopefully won't bend straight as it cooks. So I do need a piece for the tail, which I think I'll use this piece, because I think I can make use of one end being magnetic and the other end being more tail-like. So I just roll it through my fingers there until it gets narrower. There we go. Much happier with that. That will be his tail. I'm assuming his gender. That's terrible. So there we go, there's the tail. I don't think that's big enough to be the head. Well, it might be. More rolling and squeezing to get these pieces of clay. That seems a little too big, so we can give him there we go, beautiful. Yeah, I want to give him more of that tapered look for the head. Then remove that. Stick him on there. I want it to be very slightly tapered, beak-like head. There we go. And that will go on there. And that will get baked in situ. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap because sometimes it's easier to paint directly on here, because once it's baked it won't move. Now, I'm going to use a little piece of aluminum for our American friends. Foil. I'll make a little tent, a little wigwam over the top. 130 C. I don't know if you can see that there. 15 to 30 minutes. I will leave that in for, because it is solid, so I'll probably give it the full 30 minutes. Okay, so it's out of the oven. And it's solid now. It's quite hot, but it is slightly pliant. It's quite light, but this one did fall over. The others, that one moves. Usually smaller pieces. Oh, no, that one's stuck, but none of the others did. And if it's useful to leave them stuck to the tile to paint them, I find that very useful. But first of all, I'm going to rub the bases on this sandpaper just to make sure they are nice and flat and are ready to go. You'll notice it's not like clay dust, it's actually plastic. So make sure you've got extraction, a fan, open window, and that is quite hot. I'm just going to give them a little flattening so that there's a nice flat surface for the glue to stick the magnet on. It's quite hot, so the paint will probably dry very quickly. It would actually be easier. Okay, so they're all stuck down now with blue tack. I'm going to give them a paint over. This is just cheap acrylic paint. Not expensive stuff, just for a test run. The good thing about using a tile is as long as you wipe it off while it's still fairly wet, you can actually wipe off the tile quite easily. And then you don't have any sheets of paper or wastage like that. Well, this is just an undercoat. I haven't quite decided what colour I'm going to make him. I'm thinking silver. I think it would look pretty cool silver. Plus I've got some silver paint and I want to see what it looks like. I haven't had any excuse to use it. Entirely sure these magnets are strong enough. If I order some more magnets now, I'd have to make sure they're the same diameter, or very close, because I've designed this to be that size. Ooh, excuse my rotations. Okay, so we're off to a good start. Just put a bit of light on the subject. Well, that seems to be dry. Mostly. Feels like chalky almost. A little blob on the head there that's still reflecting because that little bit is wet, but the rest of it seems to be dry. I thought maybe we make the above the water parts gold and the underwater parts, which will be underneath the glass shelf, silver, if it works obviously. So We'll need some silver. There is a second hump in the oven because I didn't have enough space on this to do it all. Ooh, lovely sound. Actually, I might use this one. It's a makeup brush, but they're nice and soft, so they're perfect for this. Okay, so the above parts can be gold, the other parts can be silver. Okay, so welcome back. Here's the painted pieces. I've given them a bit of sanding off camera just to make sure the bottoms are quite smooth, because we are going to be gluing on them, so we need them nice and clean and flat, and I think they came out nice with the silver and gold paint. A couple of dents in it that I'd prefer weren't there, but I'll give it character. Now, let me just put that to one side without breaking it and talk about these. These are some very strong little magnets I got off of Amazon, and if you get them the wrong way up, they don't want to connect. And you can see they're very, crikey. When they connect, they're very strong. You've got to slide them and pick them apart, and there's another sliver just broken off. They are very fragile when they jump and crack against each other like that. Let me put that out of the way. So you've got to be careful with them, but they are quite strong. So what I bought was this tin with 10 magnets in it. This came with 10 with little sticky pads. I don't really want to use the sticky pads, I'll explain that in a minute, but these magnets are quite feisty, and they come in little pairs like that. Well, as far as I can reach, maybe there's more. No, I'll be in piles of 2. But obviously I'd like to use 2 that are going to connect to each other like that, nice and neatly. So that edge would be glued to the gold side, and that edge of the other magnet would be glued to the silver side, so that when the glass shelf is in the middle, the 2 magnets can connect to each other through the shelf. Hopefully not damaged magnets, but obviously we've got to make sure that they are not damaged and that the correct side is used, because otherwise it will repel. I'll use the damaged to show that. If you try to put the wrong edge on, it forces apart and it doesn't sit neatly like that. If you put it on the wrong way up, oh god, that's landed on the lid. Don't know which way up that is now. Yeah. You can't get it to line properly. It will stick, but it won't line neatly. So you need the 2 sides to be nicely lined, like so. And preferably undamaged. I'm not going to use these thick, sticky pads, because I'm going to use, the other thing I bought was these Fixman hardware fixing felt protector pads, 20 millimeter rounds, which is the same as the magnets, 20 millimeter rounds. Now, if I had a decent tool to do it with, I would probably be tempted to drill a recess into here to fix the magnet into the recess. But if I try to do that with hand tools and stuff that I have at the moment, I'll probably make a right pig's ear of it and ruin it. So I'm literally just going to take my magnet, the correct side, glue it to there, glue the other one to there, once the glue is dry, which won't take very long, then stick one of these soft pads on, and then we'll be ready to go. I did test it on a thick piece of pad like this to see whether they could connect through, and I was going to use these washers, so I was going to use a magnet on the top and just a washer on the silver pieces underneath. But it proved that when you've got the thickness of the shelf involved as well, another 5 or 6 millimeters, plus you've got the thickness of the foam pad to take into consideration. They're not very thick, but you've still got to take it into consideration. The magnet's got to work through all that distance, and it wasn't working too brilliant. It's actually fell down into my hand while I was testing that. So the washer idea is out, and we're going to go with one magnet on each end, and hopefully we won't get magnets that repel each other and do it all wrong. So let's get prepared. Maybe because I'm holding it at an angle as well. So yeah, whoop, 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 whoop. Okay. And you see the fun and shenanigans. And every time I tilt it, it's gonna rotate, but when he's upright he'll stay whatever way you put him. It's only because I'm tilting it to show you. There you go, that's what it's going to look like with the shelf in between. Okay, I'm fairly pleased with our situation. Alright, so next we've got to make sure they don't clack together, because they will damage each other. Next we're going to take these, and that's just to protect the glass shelf if they do clang together through the shelf. But they're more likely to damage each other than the shelf if they smash together too hard. Hopefully the magnetism will still be strong enough through the thickness of these, but I'm just going to go through the edges first and just add a little extra drizzle. Before I get to that stage of putting the foam pads on. I'd like to, oh, they're a bit close together, don't leave them too close together, they will jump. I'm only trying to put the glue in from sort of one side, and then just leave them sat that way up, so hopefully before the glue sets it'll sink down into the joint a little bit. And there we are. I'm not going to just rely on the sticky pad. I actually will rely just on the sticky pads, I think, because if I use glue to stick the sticky pads on with, then they're on permanently, and if they get damaged or water on them or something, it's supposed to be 20mm magnets and 20mm sticky pads, but the sticky pads are definitely bigger than the magnets. definitely got a sticking issue with a couple of fingers sticking together. There's a couple of stages left to do, but it's pretty close to being done. What I would like to do is make sure they're all totally covered in the gold and the silver, so there's no little weird edges. Where they were close to the tile, I couldn't quite get to all the edges. Maybe paint over the edge that you can see, because the magnets aren't quite the same size as the body. If I was going to do it again, I'd try and get that much more accurate, but I hadn't ordered the magnets before I'd made the body and discovered that the other magnets weren't going to work. They weren't strong enough. You need something that's pretty decent to get through. Got glue dried on my fingers now. It's going to be there for a few weeks before it wears away. So I would then like to maybe paint the edges of the magnet around the same colour as that to make it slightly less visible. There's a big chunk out of that one. The paint's missing. So I'll go over things like that. And then give them a varnish. Well, a glaze as it's called. And then we shall see how they look. Alright. See you later. So, it's been decided that it needs eyes. Oh, there's a big hole there in the paint. So I'm going to use a pen, but I'm going to dip it in paint. The good thing about doing it this way is if I hate it, I can do it. I can just wipe it off. Which I do. Let's do it again. Didn't like that. That's it. That's what I want. And then a blob with a little tail. That didn't go as good as it could have, so that one will be wiped off as well. Get a little blob of paint. So there's a little tail sticking out. Oh yeah, that's better. So we're back, and the paint has now dried again. I've given him some little eyes, so I'm pleased with that. And we're going to use this gloss medium, make him nice and shiny. Deposit a little blob of that there. is the final result. It's I can't believe it actually works, but it's one of those things I think I'll visit again in the future. But definitely worked. And now on to the next.